Hey there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, and today I'm going to share with you a lot of tips, and we're going to make this really fun card. It's very easy, and first tip I want to show you is how I store my white paper panels. So when I'm making a card and I end up with, I cut a piece of white cardstock down, and then I have like half a sheet. Well, I cut that down, and then by manufacturer, I have Paper Tray Ink, Nina, Georgia Pacific, Gina K. I have them all in there by type because some are good for markers, some are good for ink, some are good for watercolor. So I keep them right in this little coupon organizer I got at the dollar store. So what I'm going to do is grab out a sheet of my favorite cheap paper, the Georgia Pacific from Sam's Club, and I'm going to stamp our focal image here, which is by About Art Accents. And I've got it right here. I'm going to use some pigment black ink. Ink it up good. This is my favorite black pigment ink. It is VersaFine Onyx Black. And I'm going to work upside down so I don't have to flip my video because I uploaded a video yesterday and I flipped it on YouTube, but it takes a while from when I flip it to when it actually appears right set up for you guys. And I got some comments and people are like, why are you upside down? This is craziness. I can't follow this. This is insane. So, well, look at that. That's not a very good image. You know what you do? I'm going to share something with you here. Let me get a fresh piece of paper. I got another tip to share from you. Let me go back in my coupon organizer, and it's crazy. It's just, see, Lindsay makes mistakes too. All right, so I got my cheap paper here. This is a homemade anti-static pouch, and what it is just a little cloth rectangle that I filled with a couple of tablespoons full of cornstarch and then stitched it up. I actually did stamp on it and colored it just to make it fancy, but so basically what you do is you rub this on your paper before you stamp and emboss on it, and that will keep any stray powder from sticking to your paper. So these cost $12 in the scrapbook store. You can make it for like next to nothing. If you have a little scrap of cotton fabric, just dump some cornstarch in there, gather up the edges and secure it with a rubber band, and that'll work just as well. I sewed mine, but you don't have to do that. You just need, or you can even use a makeup brush and dust on some cornstarch. Wow, look how far are we into this video and we haven't stamped a thing yet. This is craziness, craziness. Okay, let me make sure I ink up my stamp really well this time. Alright, it's very detailed. See, it's very detailed, so I have to make sure that I apply nice, even pressure, give it a good press in the middle. And I always like to give my stamp a few seconds for the ink to migrate from the stamp onto my paper. Now this should be a good impression. First one I did perfect. Alright, there we go. See, nice and crisp. So then what I'm going to do is use a little black detail embossing powder, which I have in this little container here, which I know someone's going to ask me, so it actually came from the a paper mill. That's how they get their tape, their like electrical tape or masking tape or something, come in these little containers like that so that it doesn't get dented. And my brother-in-law works at the mill and he saves the little containers for me, and they're just so handy for storing stuff, and they're free. I'm going to tap the excess right in there. It's about as small as I can go for an embossing powder storage, where I can actually dump the stuff right back in there. Okay, now I'm going to go heat set it and I'll be right back. Okay, I heat set it. It's all nice and shiny, so I could tip it and you can see the shine there. So now for a quick coloring lesson, what I'm going to do is actually use a tip that I learned at the Heirloom Stamp Show that I went to the other day. And I learned a tip from Local King, and they use these little, this is where I bought these little spongers here. And basically what they did is after embossing an image, they use these to color it very quickly. And I thought that is just such a time saver, and I have to try it. And, well, I did. So very quickly I'm going with dye-based inks. I have Distress ink here and Stampin' Up! Ink, but, use whatever you like. And I'm going to change it up a little bit from what I did on my sample. Let's see, whoops, that is purple, and I just used a blue dauber. Oh well, go back in with a purple dauber, that's not a big deal. I was going for blue, but I think I put the wrong cap on that pad. I'm telling you, this is like a what not to do video. No, I put the cap, I had the right top on there. I'm just losing my marbles tonight, apparently. So I'm just quickly coloring this, and because the ink is embossed, it's not gonna smudge on me, which is what I'm going for here. I think that really you can make whatever colors you want work together as long as you have other colors that bridge them together. So if you have two colors you really want, like maybe yellow and blue, but you don't really like the way, you feel like you need something else to bring them together, then you can always go in and add some pink or some purple or whatever you feel you need to make the colors work a little bit better together. These little they're called embossing brushes. I don't know why, but they're actually made by Doris, and they range anywhere between $6 and $10 a package. I actually bought one package for $6 in one booth and one for $10 in another. Of course, I bought the $10 one first, otherwise I wouldn't have gone back and spent $10 after I could get them for $6. But just to give you an idea about what they ought to go for. And then do a little purple in the center. Let's see, right there. Okay, now my tip for cutting, somebody asked me on an Ask a Crafter how to cut. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit for that, I think. Whoops, out, not in, there we go. And basically, it's how you hold your scissors. You want to kind of tip it so your bottom blade is under the paper a little bit more. So if you can see how I'm cutting there, I'll just cut around the whole thing so you can kind of observe. But by undercutting, I'm not going to see the white edge of the paper in my finished cut design. That's kind of going to be on the bottom side. So I'm just going to get the nice colored edge, kind of like you die cut. I'm just not going to have the rounded over edge like you would with like a steel die, but it is going to give you a much more polished finished look. I'm cutting pretty quickly here because of the video, but you can get the gist. And notice that I move my paper and not my scissors. My scissors are pretty much staying still, and I'm moving the paper. And that's a tip that I developed when I was volunteering in a kindergarten class, and I saw these kids moving their arms around like that trying to cut. And it's like, no, move the paper and keep your hands still, and it's so much easier. I had a daughter that had a hard time cutting, and that seemed to be the thing. She just needed to keep her hands still and move the paper, and it's so much easier. And especially if you have any issues such as arthritis or anything like that, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get the job done. And you can see how quickly it goes too. Okay, so there I have my little medallion cut out. It's kind of pretty, isn't it? I love these stamps by About Art Accents. Such a lovely Asian flair. So let me move this stuff out of my way. And, you know, let me move this out of my way, and I'll be right back with a cutting mat, and we'll go to the next step. I cannot say how much I love my pause and record feature on this new camera of mine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to make this card on a craft card base, and I kind of want this medallion matted on craft. So rather than waste another sheet by cutting a mat, I have adhered my 2 pieces of pattern paper. It's from one of those mini stacks, the Sophie collection from My Mind's Eye. And I'm actually I've taped them together, and I'm going to cut a circle out of here, so I will end up with a cool mat. I'm going to go around and make sure I got through all the layers of that. Hopefully, yes. I'm going to save this because I'm going to use this for a gift tag. This is pretty self-explanatory. So I made a little gift tag with a scrap. So I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's pretty easy. And then I'm going to mount this onto my card base. Let me make sure I'm opening it the right way. Okay. Don't want to have some crazy backwards opening card. Not that anyone would be very surprised if it came from me. Yep, that's just Lindsay. She's a little boing. She's got a backwards card for me. Oh well, you know, she's special. We like her, but she's special. Okay, so I'm adhering that down there. I'm just going to stick that right there, and I can use some double-sided tape, which I think I'll use some foam squares. So pardon me as I run across my room and get some little foam adhesive squares here. My leftover 3-dimensional foam squares from one of the kids' activities. Hate to buy foam squares. I usually don't use them too often, except just in cards, pretty much, that I know we're going to have, like, they're going to be mailed pretty soon, because I find the adhesive on most foam squares kind of crap out after a while, and then things fall off. So this is like short-term adhesive at best, I think. Alright, stick that down. Now, I got this in the mail today from Paper Mart for an upcoming video, and it is just so pretty. It's this burlap trim, and I'm gonna see if double-sided tape will stick that down. I used hot glue on the sample card, but I'm not gonna make you wait for me to go grab my hot glue gun. I'm just gonna hope for the best on this one here. I can always hot glue it later, so we'll see if that will work. Well, you know what? I think it's gonna work. And my fabric scissors here to trim that off. Look at this, it's so fast. And we have a little scrap of paper here. I'm going to stamp thanks. This stamp is also by About Art Accents. There's actually 3 text stamps, and I just glued them to a Jenga block because I like to have my sentiment stamps handy. Because I use them a lot, so I don't like to have to dig through binders when I'm looking for them. Usually don't stamp on a hard mat, but it's, you know, it's a pretty, you know, bold stamp. I know it's going to stamp fine. I don't want to use my fabric scissors on paper. That's a no-no. And then I'm just going to ink my edges with a little bit of purple ink in my purple dauber there. Nothing too careful or fancy. I think it might be kind of hard to see against that blue mat. I'm going to get that mat out of the way so you can see a little bit better here. It's a little bit easier to see, don't you think? Alright, and I again used hot glue to, whoops, look at that. I'm going to have to stick this on this side because of the way I notched the edge. So it will actually be opposite from the other one. I will do a little double-sided tape on the back of this. I might have to glue it later, but c'est la vie. There we go, and a little button to finish it off, which you'll just have to imagine it being adhered there properly because I know the double-sided tape isn't going to cut it there. So there's a finished card. Here's the first one that I made that's not going to fall when I tip it, and the matching gift tag, you know, because we get that little extra paper from where the mat is. So there, I hope you've enjoyed the tips that I've shared with you for coloring and embossing and making your own little anti-static pouch. It's just cornstarch and fabric, folks, just thin cotton fabric. Everyone can do this. I want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting.